everybody else joins. Oh, there's a few more coming in now. Middle. Meeting. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Welcome. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Shannon Nuds. I am the chair of the CMOS Halifax chapter. I am going to start by acknowledging that I am here in Nova Scotia, so I am in the Mi'kmaq, which is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Some of you, which we already know actually, are joining from outside of the Mi'kmaq territory, but we all reside on traditional Indigenous territory, so I encourage you to just take a moment to reflect on that and acknowledge that. Like I said, I'm so happy that you could all join us today. It has been a while since CMOS Halifax has hosted an event, and for various reasons, obviously, but we've been putting our energy elsewhere during the pandemic, which you will hear a little bit about. But I'm really excited for this webinar today. I'm sure you're all eager to know if you're the big winner of the backyard weather station, but you'll have to wait till the end to find that out. Claire has removed her headphones just as I'm about to thank her. Can she hear me? I just wanted to say thank you so much to Claire. She's pivotal in organizing this webinar. And she's working in the background today, monitoring the chat for questions and comments. So if you have anything that you would like to say, feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand and we'll get to it when it's convenient. Before we get to the main event, like I said, we have been putting our energy elsewhere during this pandemic. And as a result of that, I have two special guests here with us today that I need to introduce. Actually, I just want to make sure that Mia is on. Okay, unfortunately, I don't see her right now, but I will try to get her connected. And
I think she's there actually.
Oh, is she here? Mia, oh, you are here. Yay. Okay. Hi. Okay, great. I will continue. So for the last year or so, maybe a bit over a year actually, CMOS Halifax has had the pleasure of working with the Imhotep Legacy Academy at Dalhousie University to create, promote, and award the first ILA CMOS scholarship. So this is a $5,000 scholarship for students of African and Indigenous heritage who are interested in meteorology or oceanography or related science. And its purpose is just to try to reduce financial barriers for a promising grade 12 student to go on and study in post-secondary institution. So I was honored to be able to attend the ILA Youth Excellence Award ceremony 2 weekends ago to present this scholarship on behalf of CMOS Halifax. The recipient, however, unfortunately wasn't able to be there to accept the award, so I invited her to join us today so that we as the CMOS community could present it to her. So I believe, Mia, you have your camera on and she's given everyone a wave if you can see her there. I just want to, it's worth noting that we did receive several outstanding applications for this scholarship, but Mia's by far stood out amongst them all, and not just academically, but she's a member of the School Advisory Council, Student Council. She's co-president of the Gay Straight Alliance at her school. She's presented at the WBAM Student Leadership Conference, attended the Black Excellence in STEM and Health Research Symposium. She's selected to participate in the SHAD program, which is aimed at empowering youth with a focus on STEM. And the list goes on. It was clear from reading her essay and her reference letter that Mia has the passion and the drive to take her wherever she wants to go. So on behalf of CMOS, congratulations, Mia, a very clearly deserving recipient of this scholarship. Proud to be able to, honored to be able to present this to you today. So I'm just going to ask everyone to very bravely unmute yourself for a moment. And if you're extra brave, turn your camera on just for a minute and give me a congratulatory round of applause, if you don't mind. You will be receiving the formal letter and the check in the mail from ILA. And just thank you for joining us today. I hope you'll stay in touch with CMOS throughout your adventures in science, and we look forward to hearing where the world takes you. Our second guest today is another outstanding young woman, Demini Owega, and I apologize if my pronunciation is off, and maybe she'll introduce herself again to correct me. But Demini is a grade 9 student, and she, along with many other things, is a spoken word poet. And I met Demini at the ILA Youth Excellence Award ceremony. And when she introduced herself, she mentioned that she writes about all kinds of issues, including climate change. So I invited her today to share one of her poems with us. And I will just turn it over to Demini now to present.
Hi, everyone. My name is Demini Owega. Thank you, Shannon and CMOS for inviting me to share my poem. So I'll be sharing my poem, Climate Earth. And this poem is an apology to the Earth. And it's about our fight to get politicians to acknowledge climate change and to act on adequate solutions. So here is Climate Earth. Earth. We put you in a crisis and now we're unsure about how to fix you. We hurt you, took from you, and expected you to be fine. We are starting to see it's not going to be all right. Corporations cut down your evergreens just to generate revenue instead of finding ways to preserve you. We endeavored to make as much as we could, hoping you would understand our greed. We keep fishing, too many fish taken from your seas, replacing them with styrofoam and plastics, 6-pack rings strangling sea turtles, dangling from their bodies and necks, chains of industrial revolution, coral reefs, losing their magnificent color, each reef becoming a shipwreck parlor, each anthozoa becoming forgotten and colorless. We put you in a crisis and now we are unsure about how to fix you. We hurt you, took from you, and expected you to be fine, and now we are starting to see it's not going to be all right. Earth, Earth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we never followed the reduce, reuse, recycle, or save the Earth. We continue to let each day pass us by, taking advantage and taking for granted the earthly blessings that you bestowed. Factories continue to pollute the air, filling the atmosphere with toxins and microplastics. Each breath we take could be causing cancer. When will we acknowledge the melting of glaciers and the risings of seas? When will we begin to pay attention to the correlation between climate change and these violent destructions? When will we believe earthquakes and tsunamis cause casualties? When will we see all these disasters as emergencies? When will we begin to learn from our mistakes, take action to enact the necessary change? What would happen if we decided to choose sustainability? Choose electric instead of gas? Would you be out of your feverish state? We were in the wrong. We put you in a crisis, and now we are unsure about how to fix you, Earth. We hurt you, took from you, and expected you to be fine, but now we are working on making it right. We need to change our ways, change to green, change to nature, and hope that you can still be saved.
Here, everybody. Thank you so much. It was lovely. Really appreciate you joining us, Demini.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll move on to the main event of the day. So our speakers today are Jonathan Buffett and Chris Fogerty. Jonathan is the founder and manager of the Cape Breton Mesonet and works as a meteorological inspector for Environment and Climate Change Canada. He's going to start the presentation off today, and then Chris Fogerty is going to tag in. He's a meteorologist with the Canadian Hurricane Center, has a keen interest in weather observations and weather forecasting in general. And he'll talk about how forecasters make use of the citizen weather data. So I will pass it over to Jonathan.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining today. I guess I'll just get right into the slideshow.
You're able to share your screen there. Awesome.
Does that look okay?
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, so yeah, I'm Jonathan Buffett. I am manager and founder of Cape Breton Mesonet, and I also work with Environment Canada. My work with the Mesonet is like a hobby, I guess you could say. So it's separate from my work at Environment Canada, but they certainly are both related to weather. So just some background on the Mesonet. Are you I just want to know, are you all able to see the full slideshow without anything like in front of it?
Yeah. Yes, we can show. We can see the whole screen. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the Mesonet is a network of automated weather stations. There's up to 99 of them now. Started many years ago just as kind of a backyard project, and it has evolved more into a community grassroots type of citizen science effort where people from a lot of people from Cape Breton, but also across mainland Nova Scotia, have become involved and in setting up weather stations across the province and sharing data so that everybody can benefit from that. And so that's involved a lot of collaboration with different people and organizations across the province. So just a quick example showing where the stations are located in Cape Breton. And so the density of the stations, the space between them, is what we would refer to as a mesonet, so a mesoscale network of weather stations that are on average 15 to 20 kilometers apart. And as we move further into the future, this seems to be the future of weather data collection, and facing climate change and other changes. This is becoming increasingly important. So it is nice that citizen science has been able to step in and make an impact here and help everybody, from forecasters to just an everyday person who maybe wants to go out on their boat when they're lobster fishing or whatever it might be. And on the Cape Breton Mesonet website, there are many stations that are on there now. They're not all owned and maintained by the Mesonet, so I've highlighted on this this map here which ones are the Mesonet, and then the other ones belong to the Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture. Nova Scotia Fruit Growers Association, and there's some in PEI that UPEI operates. So they are completely separate from the Mesonet, but the data from those stations are shared to the site. So just some clarification for people that may be using the map. Now, I also have tried to get some stations into southern Nova Scotia, specifically Halifax around the South Shore, just to try to capture some of the microclimates that exist down in that region as well. So especially in the summertime, where we can see some very high temperatures in that area, and they don't occur along the immediate coastline where a lot of the official weather stations are. So an example here is from Port Mattoon, which is just past Liverpool. And just to show just how hot it can actually get down there once you go a few kilometers inland from the immediate shoreline. So how this all works is there's an automated weather station. In this case, it's a Davis weather station. It has a data logger, and that sends data to the internet, where it can then be used remotely by the owner or the operator, and the data can be downloaded or put on a website or whatever it happens to be. And also on the Mesonet website, there is the ability to go back in history and look at historical data on the map. I just wanted to touch on that rather interesting feature that that is there for now as a proper archive is being developed. I hope by the end of this year that will be available, where you will be able to actually see daily and hourly data from any of these stations. So with installing your own weather station, it really would depend on the budget that you have, the type of, that would really be the starting point. And from there, you would choose a model that would fit those needs. However, in my opinion, if you're going to bother spending any money on a station, it might as well be one that is high quality, that will offer high quality data and will last several years. So that's something to consider as well. So that's why I've gone with Davis. They've been really good to work with, and you can buy them locally in Halifax. So once you get to that part, you have to choose a proper location on the property, get the proper tools for the installation, and follow some basic guidelines that I will highlight here in a second, just in order to properly place the instruments, make sure that you get the best and most accurate data. And of course, be safe and ask for help in the installation process. So digging is most likely going to be involved, unless you already have some kind of a post in your yard somewhere in a good location. But a 6x6 post or 4x4, 8 to 12 feet in length, some aluminum top rail fencing is good to mount the anemometer, and a shovel or an electric drill, and some help also is much needed. So this is just a few pictures from the installation of Martin's Point. You can see on the left or on the right side there, Oak Island is just across the water. So it's yeah, it certainly makes a difference when you've got some people there to help dig the hole. And so the next challenge that many of us might face if we want to have one of these stations, perhaps we live in an urban area, and those are the most challenging areas to properly place these weather stations. But you can be creative, and if you just follow some basic rules, usually some kind of good compromise can be made. So the example here is from Dartmouth. And in this case, the rain gauge and the temperature unit, so that's on the left side there, that is at about 2 meters height. So the standard height to measure temperature is 1.5 to 2 meters above ground. It should be over an open grassy area, good airflow from all directions. Certainly you do not want to have it anywhere anywhere near a south-facing wall, because that will reflect heat and block wind flow. North-facing walls are not as bad, just because they don't reflect the heat from the sun onto the sensors. And the other important thing is to ensure everything is level, especially the rain gauge. And as for the wind sensor, that pretty much comes down to the highest and most exposed place that you're able to get it. So, and here's an example from Bridgewater. This is a more rural setting. So if you're in the country, it's a lot easier to find open spaces to put the instruments. And just some other photo examples here of how they have been mounted in different ways across the Mesonet, but they all follow that general guideline of temperature measured 2 meters above ground in an open grassy area, and wind either 6 or 10 meters above ground, depending on what type of options are available. So the other important thing to touch on is CoCoRaHS. So this is important for many reasons. Human precipitation observations have become increasingly important in recent years, as a move has been made to automation by government agencies around the world with weather data collection. So here's some photos from North Mountain in Cape Breton, just showing how how variable the snow depth can be, and how hard it could be to actually measure this through automated processes. And that's where humans come in, and also when analyzing significant weather events, it helps to have more data points on the map to be able to figure out exactly what's happening down on the ground. And this is particularly true for snowfall, just because human snowfall measurements, in my humble opinion, are the preferred way, at least for now, to find out how much actually came down and what happened after a storm. And so the more of that we can have in Nova Scotia and the Maritimes in general, the better information we will have. And this is becoming more important, of course, as we face changes in the climate, as to be expected, and so on. So to participate in CoCoRaHS, you can, I put a few links on the slide deck here, but Google searching it will bring up the same things. So just a basic rundown of what's involved. You do a measurement once a day, put the information in on an app or on the website, and that's it. It's a fairly easy process. It's more just about dedicating a little bit of time each day to make sure that it gets done. And here are some examples of a few stations in the Mesonet that are co-located with the CoCoRaHS station as well. So Mill River and Dartmouth. And that concludes my segment. So Chris is going to speak now. And go ahead, Chris.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. I wanted to talk a little bit about all the weather stations that are set up and how we use those at the Forecast Center at Environment Canada. Let's go to the next slide there. I can't show you with my mouse, but Jonathan can maybe point a little bit with his mouse. The images you see here are the one that's in the toward the upper right there is bunch of the stations that are in the Mesonet and the pressure reading for those on a map, and on the website that Jonathan has set up, you can go in there and you can have displayed any of the weather parameters you want. So in this case, you see the surface or sea level pressure, and you can see some white contours there as well. That's where the meteorologist can contour these pressure patterns in much greater detail than you would if you didn't have that many weather stations. Typically, there's the station density is a factor of 10 less than we have here. So this is a very unique data set. So we're able to visualize some of these weather features that you see in this montage of images here. So in that upper right, the white contours show you the pressure pattern associated with the Laissouet wind events. So those are fairly well-known strong winds through the Cape Breton Highlands that occur in southeasterly flow. And if you see in the color, the orange, yellow shaded images there in the upper left, and then sort of a blow up of that down toward the bottom center. The orange and red and colors here indicate the strongest winds. So as meteorologists, what we're able to do is take the data from the Mesonet, from all those weather stations, and also data from satellite images, like is shown here in the color field. And that gives us an idea of the winds in the offshore area as well. So we have details from these high resolution satellites, and then as well as the station data over land. And it kind of gives us meteorologists a picture of what's going on, not just on land, but also over the water. So this is just a nice example where it's a local effect. It depends significantly on the topography, the higher terrain in the highlands. And we've always known of these very strong winds in that area, of course, but with these two data sets, the Mesonet and the satellite imagery, we're able to fine tune in our forecasts, exactly where these winds are occurring. Are they a little bit stronger in certain specific spots than we understood, all these years? So that's a good example. Okay, go to the next slide there, Jonathan. This is one, it's the same area, of course, in the Cape Breton Highlands, that northern branch of the island. And in the upper left there, you see a similar image as was in the previous slide. Wind speed over the water. So the strongest winds show up in orange and dark orange and yellow, and the lighter winds are the bluer colors. So really what happens when the wind flows off of topography, you get this sort of a rippled effect, kind of like waves make that rippled effect in the sand on a beach. You see similar patterns in the atmosphere. And you can see in this case, it's a much more subtle situation, but some of these strong winds also occur on the eastern side of the Cape Breton Highlands. It's not a true souette, southeast wind per se, but sometimes the topography will enhance the wind in a manner similar to what happens over on the Cheticamp side. And the Mesonet of stations that are set up along the, see where I have written troughing. In that area, we have a number of Jonathan's stations set up that have been measuring some higher winds in these westerly flows, especially in the winter. And in that upper part of the montage here in the upper center there, the computer models are getting better these days, high resolution, and they're able to pick up some of these wind features. You can see an area there where it's kind of like a orangish brown shading. So the model does pick up on higher winds on the eastern part of the highlands, but it doesn't, the model's not high enough detailed resolution to pick up on the rippling effect of the wind pattern. So these are some of the things that we're able to see with the network. And with our models, high resolution models and the satellite data. Okay, go to the next one there. Another area that's prone to these stronger winds over Nova Scotia, and this is on the mainland, just across the Kansas Strait in Antigonish County. We're observing stronger winds from the Arisag Mesonet station that Jonathan put in not too long ago, just about, well, it's been there, what, a year now, I guess. And
Yeah.
we've seen, we always had a suspicion that there were stronger winds enhanced in southeasterly flow in that part of the mainland, so up in Antigonish County. So we're getting a measure of some of those stronger winds. So this may help us as forecasters maybe adjust some of our forecasting in that region. We can maybe alert for some of the stronger winds that can often occur there. So another example of the utility of the network. All right, go to the next slide. So in the forecast office, in our software, we have tools that are built in to help the meteorologists. They're software tools that basically, you can see the map of Cape Breton here, and a lot of the stations that are on the Meso network are shown here with the little green triangles. So the forecaster can get like an audio alert or just a visual on a map like this that flags the forecast region in orange or red, depending on how far the temperature is departing from the forecast. So if the forecast is starting to, maybe there's more sun getting through, more cloud or less cloud than predicted, the software will give us an alert for temperatures that are a bit off. So the more stations we have, meso networks like this, the sooner the forecaster can probably become aware of changes in the forecast, and then we can actually issue an amendment if need be. All right, go to the next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the CoCoRaHS network there of precipitation data. Rainfall is not too difficult to measure, so all the meso network stations can do that fairly well. It's frozen precip, so freezing rain, ice pellets, sleet, and snowfall, of course, that the human measurements are quite critical. Traditionally, our snowfall measurements that we use in Environment Canada and our forecasts are coming from the traditional airport locations here shown with the yellow X's. And there's only a handful of those in our forecast region, 7 here on this map. But if you look at the stations in the CoCoRaHS network, so these are all volunteers, citizens measuring snowfall according to the rules for measuring precipitation. And there's about 7 times as many of those white and blue dots on this map as there are the traditional airport sites. And airports are certainly not the best location anyway for measuring snowfall because of it's wide open and you get a lot of drifting, so it's traditionally just difficult to measure it there, even if it is human based. And sometimes the observers at the airports, they don't have the time to go out on the edge of the airport clearings to try to get an estimate of the snowfall. So the network is really useful for that. And as far as forecasting goes, this is going to help us as the storm is unfolding. If we got a snowstorm moving in, we'll get an idea, like especially down toward Yarmouth, Western Nova Scotia, we might see the snowfall starting earlier there, or the snowfall amounts are a little bit higher than we were typically thinking. Maybe snowfall is occurring closer to the coast, and we may not get these measurements like optimally in real time, like right to the second, but the more data we have, we can look as storms go through all this data that we get from the network. Forecasters are looking at it. We're using that to verify our forecasts. So did our snowfall warnings work out? and we can see patterns sometimes and can say, well, it seems like we're predicting too little or too much snow in this area consistently as we look at the data. And then, you know, in the weeks and months ahead or the next winter season, we can modify our forecast a little bit as we, you know, gain understanding of what's going on. So it's, these networks help us in real time to make adjustments to the current forecast, but just as importantly, they give us a better understanding of all these little, you know, so-called microclimates around the region, areas that we have theory, you know, as meteorologists, we can understand that there's, you know, it's probably warmer in that particular valley inland, but until we measure it, we don't really know. And this will help us, you know, fine tune our forecasts in the future. So, and that was all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Very informative.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, there was one in the chat. Was there, Claire? Oh, no.
Yeah, there was a little bit of chit chat there. We had a question about were the Mesonet data assimilated in the model. I think that was for Chris. Well, Jonathan too, I guess.
Right. I'll start with that one, and then Jonathan, you can add maybe. The as far as the data getting, we have an internal display, and Jonathan has worked hard on this as well as getting this data into the forecaster's interface in the weather office. So we're using the in-house software. Now we can access the website just as anybody can to see what's going on in real time. As far as the assimilation into the models themselves, I'd have to look into that exactly if it's reached that stage of you know, and some, you know, being assimilated into our internal systems here at Environment Canada. So I know for sure that we are able to view the data live inside of our in-house software that we use to put together our forecasts. And but I'll look into to what extent the data gets into, maybe not all of the stations, but if there's a gap between the traditional stations that get assimilated into the model, some of that could be getting in. But that's a good question. Thanks.
Jonathan, do you have anything else to add?
I can answer some of the questions here that are popping up in the chat. Well, also to add to what Chris was saying, I know, like, for example, CoCoRaHS data is like recorded by Environment Canada as well. So I don't know how far it or how involved it is with modeling and that stuff, but perhaps in the future there will be discussions on that as well. So as for where you can buy a Davis station, you can get them at in Halifax at the Binnacle, which is down by the Armdale Rotary. They're probably the cheapest place in Canada to get them. So yeah, you can send data to Weather Underground with these stations. You have to have the WeatherLink live data logger for that. So that just connects the station to the internet, and from there you can do a whole lot of things with the data. Are the coastal stations informing your marine forecasting and observations? You might want to take that one.
Right. I didn't see the phrasing of that question.
Yeah,
read it again.
So Toby is asking, are the coastal stations informing your marine forecasting and observations?
Right. yeah, I guess to the extent that the mariners are aware of the station network, that could be, they could be using that as, it could be useful for them. Southwest Shore, there's not a whole lot of stations there. I think I'm thinking of the lobster fishery, which is pretty active part of the province down there in the southwestern shore. So you've got the Port Mouton station originally installed. So that's good. So comparing that with Bacquareau Point and and particularly those SAR winds, these high resolution images that I showed there that show the winds in just over the water, because that satellite, what it does is senses the wave patterns on the ocean. So a lot of that information is useful for mariners. Now they cannot access it directly to see the details, but it helps us as forecasters inform them in that way.
I know Toby's a surfer. He may have been curious about the surf predictions too.
Right. Yeah, if you get a little light offshore wind and you can see it on one of the stations, of course, that's a ideal situation for surfing.
Yeah, so a few more questions here. Barry says, important viewpoints on snowfall and snow depth measurements. These same issues exist across Canada. What is the current discussion with Environment Canada on how to address this problem? I don't know if I have a comment on that. I guess CoCoRaHS, I guess, is really the answer, perhaps, but I can't really.
I'm just scrolling through the questions here as well. Okay, is this is it the one that starts with important viewpoints? Is it that one?
Mm-hmm.
So Barry asked important viewpoints on snowfall and snow depth. These same, yeah. So they exist across Canada. What's the current discussion within Environment Canada on how to address this problem, right? So I know Alberta has like a pretty detailed Meso network out there as well. I think that was set up for maybe related to the Hail project there. I think that is that, Jonathan,
yeah.
Is that detailed networks still intact out there?
Oh yeah, yeah. It had something to do with insurance and hail.
Yep.
As far as I know, and that was set up several years ago, but that has been operating in Alberta, and that data, it actually comes into Environment Canada, right into our archive, the whole thing, and is on our main webpage. So yeah. And
this is a lot about, when you think of international communities, how that collaboration needs to occur for, the greater good of the world in terms of observing. It's also within Environment Canada, the Federal Weather Service we have our own, stations, but we can't sample the entire huge country. So we get this augmented collection of information with these Meso networks, data citizens. So as we get more people interested in collecting weather data and just interested in weather in general and going to be more passionate about collecting the data, then we can reap the benefit of that, and then it can be fed back to the to the public in general, right? Because it's helping the meteorologists. So yeah, to the extent that it's being addressed within Environment Canada, it's definitely ongoing. It's growing. CoCoRaHS network is growing. Jim Abraham can probably provide a bit of a sense on how that might be, the extent to which it's growing. Some provinces maybe more quickly than others.
Okay. So Vincent is asking about, while Davis equipment is the gold standard, is there value to contributors from quote unquote lesser homemade stations? If so, how does one contribute their data? So I have lacrosse gear and some code on GitHub for pulling data from lacrosse cloud servers. In terms of the Mesonet, I don't really know. I haven't delved too far into that. If someone is really good at coding, I'm sure pretty much anything can be done. But yeah, that's a conversation I haven't really had yet, but something to keep in mind for sure. So we have another question here by Jinyu. Mesonet data are excellent. Did anyone generate graded fields of winds, rainfall, etc., based on the data? I think after the flood in Victoria County, in November, there may have been some of that done at Environment Canada, perhaps, but I don't know for sure. So it really just depends, I guess. And but certainly the potential is there. Leslie, it's a wonderful achievement to have Mesonet and provide amalgamated data views. This could be further leveraged through incorporation of the data into the Canadian climatological data archive. Is this occurring? I would love nothing more than ultimately if the data could be in the Canadian Climate Archive. That would be wonderful. Which is why I put so much effort into making sure the stations are placed properly for accurate temperature, especially. So hopefully in the future, for sure. Serge is asking, do you have any idea of the quality of the information coming from the Mesonet network? This is often the concern data assimilator I have with such a network. Can you give the websites that give access to the live Mesonet data? So Chris can probably speak a little bit on this as well, but the quality of the data, in my opinion, as long as the instruments are placed properly, would be no different than any official station. So if the wind sensor is at 10 meters or is fairly high enough and well exposed, and temperature at 2 meters, then a radiation shield, same as a gill shield that we use, or a Stevenson screen that we use in the official network. And so that's all the same. It's just a matter of how well you place the instruments. So.
Yes, and as you know, Jonathan, being an observer with Environment Canada, he is fully aware of the standards that are required, for the the key for the meteorologist is that Jonathan's made everything available, including the site photographs. So if like he was talking about some of the urban settings, you can't really get an optimal setup maybe for your thermometer, or get the your anemometer above a certain level just due to restrictions on the property. That information is there for the meteorologist to go in with site photographs, different directions. So meteorologists can see, okay, probably the winds are going to be shadowed a little bit from a certain direction. So between those two things, it's really good data.
Yeah, that's a good point. Site photographs for almost every station are there on the site, looking in every direction. So you can make your own judgment based on those photos. Serge is asking, what about for the rest of Nova Scotia? Oh yeah, so it's an interactive map. I might have to change that at some point to get it more centered over the province. But for now, the default is just over Cape Breton, but that's one thing that's probably going to change very soon. But yeah, it's an interactive map. You can zoom around, move around, and click on things. Claire's asking, do you personally approve of a station to qualify it for the Mesonet? Yes, yeah, I do. So, I mean, they're all Davis stations. Not that that's necessarily a hard and fast rule. That's just really the only system that I have experience with, and also is data is easily sent to the website the way it's configured. But yeah, a Davis station is preferred for sure. But on top of that, it just depends on how the instruments are placed. So sometimes there are some other people on the mainland, Sluice Point, Port Maitland, Duncan's Cove, that have been accepted into the Mesonet per se, Spanish Ship Bay as well, and West Brooklyn Mountain, just because those instruments are well situated. So Duncan's Cove, I might need to do a little bit of work with Duncan's Cove, but but all in all, they're representative of the area, especially most importantly for temperature. So that's usually what it comes down to. And if they're not, it's usually easy to help the landowner out and adjust the siting a little bit. So I've had to do that a few times with some of the stations in Cape Breton that I kind of co-opted years ago and got things reconfigured just the way they should be for the most accurate readings. Bob's asking, Alberta Mesonet info can be accessed. Okay. So the process to be accepted includes you inspecting either in person or via photos. Yeah, pretty much, like photos are fine. Yep. That's actually usually how it's done. It hasn't happened that often that people will just have a Davis station on their property and everything ready to go, but sometimes it does. And yeah, so. And from there, you know, good data can be used by forecasters and the general public. So the idea is that it's open source, it's citizen science, it's, you know, grassroots, everything, and it's for the betterment of everybody. And there's no cost to it or anything. It's just there on one platform for people to use. How should people contact you? What's the first step to get online with the Mesonet? There is an email link on the website, capebretonweather@gmail.com. And I guess from there you could start a conversation, or if you have any questions. I live in Dartmouth. I also have a place in Cape Breton, so I'm often between both areas, but probably more often in Dartmouth these days. So if someone needs help, you know, digging a hole maybe or something like that, I might be able to help. Can you give back the CoCoRaHS website? What do you mean? I don't know that I understand that one.
Maybe the re-display the link to it, maybe.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Someone has, yeah, clarity.
Yeah, and for CoCoRaHS, on their site, you just sign up for an account. I think you have to order the gauges. So there's like two manual rain gauges that you get, and you'd need to get a snow ruler, and again find a representative area on your property to do those measurements. But that's all covered in the kind of like the how-to documentation on the website there. They're pretty in-depth with everything, and explain some of the nuances, snow water equivalent and snow on ground versus newly fallen snow, etc. Yeah, so that's one thing we could really use more of these stations as well, and they are pretty cheap, so it's not really a matter of money with these ones. It's more just a commitment.
I think we did skip over one question that was a little higher up. Are weather flow stations of any use to these data sets reported in Weather Underground from Jerry Block?
I've never heard of a weather flow station, so I'll have to take a look at that and see what they're like, how accurate they are. I have in the past played around with a few other stations like the Netatmo stations. I bought one of those one time. So there certainly could be value in exploring other types of stations if they are high quality. Yep. So I'll look into that one.
And sometimes as a meteorologist too, we'll take any data that we can get as long as we have an idea of its sighting. You know, it may not even need to be like a state-of-the-art thermometer, right? if it's cited well and properly and toward the standard, it's good information.
Yeah, that's probably the most important thing, to have them cited properly. You could have a, you know, a $10,000 thermometer or whatever, but if it's on a deck, the data is not going to be any useful. So yeah, very true.
Okay, I think is that all the questions? Anyone else have anything to add? Thank you again, Chris and Jonathan, for taking the time to do this today. Really appreciate it. And thank you. Oh, Chris is glad. Okay, I thought that was.
Thank you for having us. This was great, and thank you everybody for joining in.
I am, before everyone goes, I'm going to, maybe I should do this with the participant list, because a few people have checked out just in the last 5 minutes, but I was going to, I need to, I think, close the Zoom account to get a full list of the people that did participate in order to do the draw. So I was going to use the list here, but some people have checked out, but I will, Gordon, do will I have everybody's email that participated as well? Yes, okay. So I will email the winner out to let everybody know that it has been done. So thank you all again, and also, like we promised, a tree will be planted for everybody that registered to attend this. And I don't know, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you everyone, and I hope you'll check in with CMOS every now and again to see what we're up to, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all those things, so you can keep in touch, and we'll keep sharing good news that we have and good information that we have. So enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Claire, Shannon.
Thank you.
Thanks,